Pardon? Okay. This is the call to order for the June 11th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Woodside Planning Commission, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Chair Weaver,
Present?
Commissioner Apfel,
Here.
Commissioner Gonerko,
Here.
Commissioner Tauber. Vice Chair Gar is noted absent.
Are there any changes to the agenda as published?
There are no changes to the agenda and no desk items.
In that case, we will move on to the public comment period. This is the public comment period for items of interest to the Town of Woodside's Planning Commission or the Town of Woodside in general, but which are not on tonight's agenda. Such items brought up during the public comment period cannot be acted upon tonight, but staff can take notes and such items might be agendized at a future meeting. Is there anyone either online or present in the room that would like to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda?
We have no attendees online.
And there's no one present in the room, so I will close the public comment period and move on to item 1 on our agenda, which is approval of our minutes from our May meeting, which I believe was May 28th. Do any of the commissioners, staff members, or members of the public have any comments, additions, deletions, or revisions to the minutes?
I read the minutes before the meeting. I have no comment.
Given that, the chair would take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Chair Weaver,
Yes?
Commissioner Apfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonerko,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tauber.
We will move on to item 2 on our agenda, which is a variance for a property at 370 Old La Honda Road. And I believe that Sarah is our presenter tonight. Staff?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I will be introducing the project at 370 Old La Honda Road. The project includes the replacement of an existing staircase and trellis and the construction of a new pathway and elevated ramp to provide an alternative access to the existing residents. The lot is 8.71 acres and it's in the SCP-7.5 zoning district. The site currently has a detached garage and main residence. The site slopes down from the road and it's dominated by slopes that exceed 35 and 50%. The existing residence is sited down the hill well below the elevation of the road. And the driveway slopes from the road down to a detached garage where an existing staircase and trellis are located. The existing staircase goes straight down and lands kind of above the residence in a natural area. So the project includes, sorry, let me go to a new sheet. So the project includes replacing that existing staircase and trellis in that same general location, and that's this location here. Hopefully you can see that. The stairs will be reconfigured and extended to allow a gentler stairway down the hill. There will also be an on-grade pathway that will begin at the driveway that will cross through the site, and that's this pathway here. So kind of beginning at this point and crossing through the property here. At this point, the pathway will kind of turn and it'll become elevated. So it'll kind of make a U-turn back this way, and it'll be elevated off of the ground. And then that ramp will cross through the property, leading towards the existing residence, which is over here. There will be some additional gravel pathways and timber tread steps that lead to the front of the residence. That's at this point where the ramp meets the grade. The on-grade path will be 4 feet wide, and we'll have, and the ramp will be 4 feet wide with a 3.5-foot tall guardrail. So that's this like elevation of the ramp with the guardrail. This is kind of a section of that. And then this is that on-grade pathway. So as you can see on the plan, it does show galvanized steel. That was the first iteration, and for materials, and staff kind of had some concerns about whether maybe it was didn't blend into the surroundings, and so the applicant expressed that they could use a Core 10 steel instead, which is it's kind of like a weathered steel. It's like a rust brown color, and so staff thinks that it would just blend better with the surroundings. And so if the Planning Commission agrees with that, we do have a condition of approval that would request that they update their materials prior to issuance of their building permit. So the reason the project is in front of you today is because there are a few entitlements. The first is a setback exception. And the second is a variance to develop within steep slopes. And lastly, a variance for the ramp to exceed the height requirements. So the ramp is located within the front setback. So that's this, I'll just zoom in a little bit. This property or setback line, this one here, sorry, this is 50 feet. And so you'll notice that this portion of it is within that 50-foot setback. So they do need a setback exception for that. As well as a setback for developing within steep slope. So as I mentioned, it's pretty much dominated by steep slopes, so any sort of development would require that variance. And then lastly, about the height. So a portion of the ramp, kind of in this location here, within this dashed line, the height exceeds what's normally allowed. So and it's due to like the slope of the site and the design of the ramp. So the height of the walking surface, so kind of like this point here, the highest point is about 18 feet, where 11 feet would be the maximum. And then to the top of the guardrail, it's about 22 feet, where 17 is normally the maximum. And although it would be taller than what's allowed, due to the elevation of where the road is and where the ramp's located, it's going to be very minimally visible. The intent for the project is to provide an alternative access from the driveway to the existing residence that doesn't require traversing down a steep hillside. Staff believes that due to the topography of the lot, the steep slopes, and the constraints on site, that the findings to support the setback exception and the variances can be made. And there's detailed findings in the draft resolution. We do have the applicant team available today for any questions, but that concludes my introduction, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Matt, do you have any questions for staff?
I do. And first, forgive me, I was not able to get to the site and I apologize for that. So some of the questions are going to be about what's going on the premises. My first question for town staff is, is it possible to go back and just review what's there now and highlight what's new? Is this replacing something or is this basically a kind of a switchback that avoids the stairs? I'm just trying to get a better sense for what I'm looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. There isn't anything there now. So
Okay.
the only thing that's there now is the staircase. Let me go to the survey.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm it.
Yeah, so you can kind of see it right here. So this is their end of their driveway and garage, and then this staircase that just goes straight down. So they're going to reconfigure this staircase to make it a little bit more of a gentle pathway down instead of just a straight shot. And then let me show you another sheet. So that's kind of right there, right? So there's nothing here. This is all just the hillside and vegetation. So there's no pathway that cuts through here right now. That's what they're proposing.
Understood. Thank you. And my next question is more of a matter of law. It just dawned on me during the presentation. It's a private residence, obviously. Does the American with Disability Act have any impact on this?
It does not. It doesn't apply to specifically to single-family residences.
That's what I thought.
But it is kind of in that spirit. So the code, even in some cases, like the town has provided some exemptions for paved area regarding for ramps on private residences in that same spirit. So that is one of the things we've leaned on a little bit for the findings. It would help an aging family, age in place. So we kind of look at those benefits of it.
So I don't want to say it's inspired by the ADA. That's too much, but at least it's good to know on the record that it's part of the consideration.
It's definitely part of the consideration.
Okay, great. I have no other questions.
Richard?
So just looking at the topography, well, not the topography, but the positioning of the house and the garage. The garage is above the house, closer to the road, higher elevation, and the house is lower. So the ramp will be actually under the road. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'll show the elevation again. So you can see up here, there's a car. That's like where the Old Holland Road is.
Yeah.
And then they drive down to get to this garage here. So see, that's the Old Honda Road up there. So yeah, you're driving down the driveway to get to the detached garage. And then again, even further down to get to the house, which is
So how
down here.
much space is there between the road that that takes you to the garage from Old La Honda? How much distance is there?
from the garage to the road. Is that what you're
From
asking?
the garage, yeah. Laterally.
Which dimension are we talking about? Sorry.
So as you're
Where?
taking the exit from the road separates sorry, the driveway separates from Old La Honda. So is there enough space? What I'm getting at is there screening right now over there? Are there trees or shrubs? I didn't make it to the site too. I apologize.
There is, yeah. I drove out to the site and actually it's sort of one of those cases where when you're driving into the property, you know, you kind of go up to get onto the driveway and then down. It's like really hard to see actually anything. And then kind of past here in this location, it's all vegetation. So you really don't, you hardly see the house even, or sorry, you hardly see the garage at all.
Okay. And is there a cost difference between the two kinds of metals for the railing?
Probably. I think that the applicant spoke to that, but I could let them answer that question for you.
Okay, so I wouldn't object to the use of stainless or galvanized metal because of the fact that you won't even see it. So if they prefer to use that, it's a lot less costly. I wouldn't have anything against that. So I really don't have any other comments. Just quite an undertaking.
Alex, do you have any questions?
I think I'm with the town on that. The second thing that was discussed in the packet that I prepared you was the issue of the two decks in the walkway. And you encouraged you encouraged us to talk about those two decks, which are very separate from the pathway. And in order to kind of, for us to have kind of educated discussion about that, I would love to hear your point of view on it.
Sure. So it's actually, so if you notice, here's the ramp. It's got kind of these, what they're calling platforms. So you have your first platform where it becomes elevated, the second platform here, and then a third one here. And you can see that they're wider than just the 4-foot sort of like access way. So this platform here, we'll call it platform number 3, is located in an area that the height exceeds the maximum of what's allowed. So it's that taller portion of the ramp. And so that was a concern from staff just about whether they needed to have that additional platform area in a portion of the ramp that is taller than what's allowed.
And just to add on to that, that's Sarah's correct. It's wider than it's necessary to use as a ramp to get down. We didn't put a specific condition in at this time, given that it's not extremely large and it is relatively, you cannot see it from other properties or the roadway. Although it's not directly related to the ramp, if the planning commission felt that that was an issue to make the findings, they could condition the project to minimize the size of that platform.
What is the purpose of those two platforms?
The applicant can best explain those. My understanding would probably be for some nice outdoor space. It's really the one that goes over the height limit. So that's correct. So that's the one we're trying to just point out. If someone were to do just an elevated lookout structure, we might have more of a question about that than something that's actually providing some gentle ramp access to that.
For the record, there's no extra elevation. It's just the width that we're talking about here.
That's correct. Yes, the ramp itself is not taller than the ramp. It just makes it a little bit wider.
So you can consider maybe a viewing station or a nice little place to pause on your journey on
Exactly.
the switchbacks.
That's a very good point.
Particularly if you're maneuvering a wheelchair on that, or
Yes.
someone needs some other form of assistance.
Yep.
Understood.
That's correct.
If Alex doesn't have any further questions, the question I have for staff is, I did visit the site, and this entire structure, I mean, to my mind, is going to be virtually invisible from the street. And I think that Sarah has essentially mentioned that in her presentation. And I guess I had a more general policy question, is I can certainly understand the aesthetic value for passerby or neighbors of Corten steel versus galvanized steel. But for a structure that's not visible to passerby or to the neighbors, what is the interest of the town of Woodside in the material?
It's really in relationship to the residential design guidelines. So whereas sometimes you may not see a structure, we still try to look at and encourage things that are more consistent with the design guidelines. So that was the reason for our recommendation for the material. But it is not, there is no strict code requirement that it has to be something that completely blends in. It could be galvanized if that was the will of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
I just one quick follow-up. Just thinking forward, could there come a time or a condition in which that would be visible? Trees fall or topography changes? I know we're speculating. I don't like to do that, but I do want to think beyond June 11th.
I mean, I think the topography is the biggest issue, so that is most unlikely to change in any significant way.
Okay, thank you.
Whereas vegetation, yeah, sure, that could fall down, remove diseased trees otherwise, but the topography is really what's screening it primarily.
Okay, thank you.
Absent any further questions from the commission for staff, we would invite the applicant or their representatives to come forward if they wish and present. You do not have to if you do not want to, but you're welcome to speak.
I'm Diane Elder. My husband and I are the owners of the property. When I designed the house 35 years ago, we sited the house further from the road, down from the garage, thinking that, we'd always be able to handle the stairs. And subsequently, there have been a couple of hospital visits that made the stairs seem a little bit harder than we ever anticipated. So anyway, when it got time to replace the wooden stairs that we have, we also thought it would be a great idea to look into having a ramp. And so the ramp is part of the project for us that will make it sort of give us peace of mind, I guess, sort of aging in place for the rest of our lives. And just to speak a couple minutes or just a couple sentences really about the platforms, and that's that given the sort of expense of building the ramp, we also wanted to have a couple places on the ramp that we could maybe have a chair or something and enjoy the space, sort of give us a place on our lot that right now is pretty inaccessible, but it's still spectacularly beautiful. And I think that having a place to just stand or sit and enjoy the redwoods that are there would be wonderful. Anyway, we've got our design team here and maybe they can answer questions about the design if you've got any.
Matt, you want to start?
I have a couple of quick ones. I know materials has come up. What other materials other than steel, if any, were considered, and how did you ultimately land on steel? I assume it's durability, but I have no idea. I want to put it on the record.
Yeah, we considered early on in the design process, a wooden structure before we knew the size or scope. But really, when we started designing this, our extremely primary consideration was all the trees. It's densely forested. The redwoods kind of give character to the site. They define the site, and they're very important. So we wanted as few piers, footings in the ground as possible, and steel, using a material like steel enabled us to have many fewer points in which we would need to drill into the ground. So that's why we chose steel.
Thank you. And just one other question, again, more for the record. The thinking is that the reason it goes higher is because you wanted to have a gentle slope. Is that right? Like you didn't want to have undulations or anything that kept lower to the ground that didn't account for that swale or that little part where it goes kind of down a bit. Was that the thinking?
Yeah, we wanted a consistent 1 to 12 slope to make it really practical to use. If one of the reasons for the ramp is to increase accessibility, we can't have it really being steep. And the ground slopes so steeply, it's really a quite extreme site that if we were to follow the ground topography, even, a little bit, it would be.
It would defeat the purpose. It would be a roller coaster
It
that
would
you
be a
have
roller
to
coaster.
wheel or walk on. Is that a
Yeah.
proper way to think about it?
Yeah, it's not a site that you can traverse on foot, really. It just isn't. It's too steep. So that's what's dictating, or that's what's causing the height of the ramp, basically.
Great. Thank you very much. I have no other questions.
Richard?
I think the one thing to note about the platforms is that they are landings and places to pause, but sort of like a programmatic element, but they're also landings. So they are flat as opposed to the sloping, gently sloping ramp. So they really, in the spirit of the ADA law, though not like to the letter of the law, that is part of it. So you do have to have landings, every so often. And so they're not only in there to have like a lovely place to be, although that is part of it, they're serving like a function as well.
One follow-up question. The surface that you walk on, is that also made of galvanized steel? Or is that wooden surface?
Yeah, we're imagining that to be a steel grating as well. So it's visually and materially transparent, or you
So
know,
it's gonna be like,
like a mesh almost.
it's
Yeah.
gonna have,
So,
yeah, it's gonna be like crisscrossing,
mm-hmm.
so you can
Yeah.
see through it. I see.
Yep. Yep.
Pricing wise.
I think they're pretty comparable pricing wise. There is a small, maybe a small difference, but they're,
Core 10 is more expensive.
I thought it was about 10%,
Yeah.
something. I mean, it was
Oh, okay.
reasonable, but.
so maybe a 10% difference. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. We would have to look back at our notes, but I can say with confidence that Core 10 is more expensive. Yeah, and I think in that like 10% realm. So if there was, some wiggle room on what to use, that would be, I think, a nice thing, but either way.
Yeah, I would say as the owners, we'd be comfortable with a quartet requirement.
No, for me, it's tough to do that because they brought up, the chair brought up some good points on, you don't really see it. I think the planning department brought some points about this is not a hard requirement, and I think this is already an expensive proposition. So I think it would be a nice to have, but would be become more of a discretionary for discussion because this is not a. This is an expensive ramp, this is an expensive set of stairs, and the other things we have to pay for, so I'm in favor of that.
So I think you just expressed what was going to be my follow-up question, which was going to be your, position as the property owners and the people writing the checks on the materials. You should certainly have the freedom to use the material that you think is most aesthetically pleasing or whatever. But if budget is a concern, I would agree with Commissioner Tauber that if no one else other than you is going to see it, then my concern about complying with something that's not a higher requirement is pretty low. So based on what you just said, I don't have any further follow-up questions. Okay, well, if we have no further commissioner questions for the applicant, we can open the public comment period on this. So if there's anyone in the room or online on Zoom that would like to speak, please come up to the mic. And if you grab that red handle, you can move the mic stand up and down so you're not scrunching down or standing on
It's
tiptoe.
okay.
Okay.
My name is Martha Lumers. I'm here with my husband, Hans Lumers. We are the next door neighbor to the extent you can use next door on Old Honda Road. I think I see the way this is going, but I just wanted to put on the record our strongest possible support for the project. We too have discovered that we're not immortal, that we're aging, and we already have one neighbor who I know that they would love to invite, who's in her mid-90s and can't manage it. I hope to make it to my mid-90s when they are also in their mid-90s and to be able to visit an extraordinarily well-designed house. Thank you.
Anyone online, Julie?
No one online.
Unless someone else would like to speak, we are going to close the public comment period and move on to commissioner discussion. So we'll start with Commissioner Apfel.
I'm very supportive of the project. I think the one thing that we might want to discuss is planning commission is what the condition would be on the materials, but directionally and necessity or need or impact, I think they clearly met the standards for me.
Richard?
Also in support of the project. So again, I have no objection to using galvanized steel if that is what you prefer to use.
I support the setback exception.
Sorry, can you use the?
That mic is your enemy, Alex.
That's it.
I support the setback exception. I support the variance to develop within steep slopes. I support the variance with, to the maximum height. I actually support decks as part of the sloped pathway. And with regards to steel, I think it's at your discretion. I mean, things have a way of escalating when you start them. There's unknowns and things like that. And I think what's more important for me is that you guys get it done so that you're happy with it and not constrained by costs.
Galvanized steel can always be painted if you so desire later on. Make it. The other one.
I don't have any further comments. Circling back to Matt, would you be comfortable with passing a resolution, granting the variance with, out the restriction on material?
I would.
Since we seem to have a consensus, I would entertain motions.
So I motion to approve the draft resolution for the platforms and the, is it the ramp? Including the 3 variances that are required.
And then to, and if that's acceptable to the maker of the motion to be amended?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. And so just to clarify, that would be the removal of condition 1E. And so if there's a second.
Second.
Chair Weaver,
Yes.
Commissioner Apfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gunnerko,
Yes.
Commissioner Tauber.
Congratulations. You get to start building.
That tiny windy road.
Yeah.
I used to bike that. It's tough.
So Sage, did you have anything else for us tonight? I guess next Wednesday's meeting is canceled.
Yes, next Wednesday meeting is canceled. So we'll keep you updated if there is anything. We'll definitely have probably at least one meeting in July, but we'll let you know when that will take place.
Anything else we need to know about?
So, as you may be aware, you were following the meeting last night, just the town council picked up their first meeting. It's a very initial meeting for the town center area plan update. That meeting last night was just to look at the potential boundaries to be studied, as well as to appoint the Citizen Advisory Committee. So staff recommended that the Citizen Advisory Committee be made up of the chair and vice chair of the Planning Commission, the chair of the Trails Committee, the chair of the Open Space Committee, chair of the ASRB, and the chair of the Circulation Committee. And then that was 6 members. And then there were, at the time, 4 of the stakeholder property owners interested in serving. So we recommended that they serve. That went up to 10 members. At the end of the night, the council did decide that those were appropriate folks to serve on the committee, yet they did want to expand it for a little bit more representation. So they set up a subcommittee. We'll be sending out postcards townwide, inviting people to fill up to 5 more spots. They'll choose if they want to do 1 or 2, but up to 5 more. And the subcommittee will bring those nominations to the full council, hopefully in their first meeting in July, if not the second meeting in July. But that will kind of complete the first step. And then the consultants are still doing information gathering, and the first Citizen Advisory Committee would take place late summer, early fall. And that's all I have to add today.
All right. With that, I will adjourn this meeting.